Hey, Camila Gornia here, founder of Heart Behind Hustle, and in this video, I want to share with you my story, my personal story of dealing with anxiety. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about how my anxiety came about, and it's actually panic disorder. So I've had panic disorder since I've been about 21, and I was able to heal it for the most part without using any prescription drugs or doing anything super weird or anything like that. I was really focused on doing things naturally, and I haven't had a panic attack in probably a year now, which is pretty amazing. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through my journey, and hopefully some of the things I share will help you if you're struggling with anxiety or panic disorder as an entrepreneur or as just a regular human being. So if this sounds relevant for you, then please go ahead and stick around. And before we get into it, go ahead and leave a comment below and let me know what your story with anxiety is. Do you struggle with anxiety right now? Or maybe you know someone that struggles with anxiety and you want to help them. I'm really curious to hear who is in our community and where you're coming from, because the more I know about you, the more I can support you in the best way. So go ahead and leave a comment, and if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure you do so, because I share more entrepreneurship, lifestyle, and marketing videos, strategies, and advice right here. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey guys, all right, so what I want to do in this video is I want to walk you through my experience with anxiety, and particularly with panic attacks, because I really feel like a lot of people are struggling, especially entrepreneurs, because as entrepreneurs, we are very often just totally alone. We often feel like no one can understand what we're going through as it relates to the business. And often, for a lot of people that I've spoken with, this can breed anxiety. And then not being able to talk to anyone about that can be a little bit frustrating, and it can be just supporting that anxiety to grow even more. And I don't want that to happen to you. When I started dealing with anxiety, is I wished I would have had some kind of a resource that would support me in actually being able to know what to do. Now, by the way, just because I'm talking about doing it naturally doesn't mean that you have to do it naturally. I'm not necessarily against prescription medication, because sometimes it does make sense. But personally, I just wanted to make sure that I can do it naturally as much as possible. I'm really hesitant and wary of prescription medication or anything unless I really need it. So if I can find a way to heal something, going into the root of the matter and really healing that, versus just getting some band-aid solutions and feeling good now, but then a whole host of side effects comes up, like that's not really what I wanted to do. I actually started dealing with anxiety when I was about 21. I was actually 20 and going into 21, and I already had a business at the time. I had my photography business, but I was also in college, and I didn't really see my photography business as like a legit business. It was more so a side hustle. It was something that I loved doing, and something that allowed me to go out and party and drink for free, because I mostly was taking photos at nightclubs, so it definitely helped me out. Through that time, I was kind of partying a lot, and eventually that lifestyle, basically, I think what happened is that lifestyle caught up with me, and I started getting some panic attacks. I won't get into the details of how that happened, because I don't think that's relevant. And then I had my first panic attack. I remember this. I was at a NAFTA party, and it was just, I basically spent like 5 hours in the bathroom, like crying, trying to make sure that I'm not dying. People were trying to calm me down. I asked for them to call for an ambulance, and they're like, "Are you sure? Because it doesn't look like you're really in need of that. You're just having a panic attack." I'm like, "You don't know what's happening." It's because I've never experienced anything like that. I mean, the whole world was like closing in on me. It was the scariest moment of my life. Then I had another one after I had my car accident. So I had a car accident when I was actually on my 21st birthday. And there's a whole story about that on my website, because it was a huge awakening moment for me when it comes to my personal growth and actually taking my life in a different direction. That really started everything for me in terms of going into personal development and really being intentional and authentic and expressed in terms of who I am and being okay with who I am. But That's beside the point. So that car accident actually exacerbated all of my anxiety issues. I remember going to college. So I went to school in Chicago, downtown Chicago, and I would have to walk from my dormitory to the different, there's 2 buildings for my college. I went to Roosevelt University, and there's 2 different buildings downtown Chicago, and I had to walk there. And I remember sometimes just walking down the street, it's about 15 minutes to go from one building to another, and having to stop and just sit by the side of the sidewalk and just like feeling like, okay, I'm fine, because I would just randomly start spiraling into a panic. And the most frustrating thing about this is that these panic attacks would come out of nowhere. You know, people would ask me like, okay, so what is it that actually triggers these panic attacks? And I honestly had no idea. It wasn't anything in particular that made these panic attacks happen. It was like I could be walking down the street and all of a sudden I become aware of my breathing and I think, oh my God, I'm breathing wrong, and I would go into a panic. I could be sitting in a classroom and just sitting there and all of a sudden becoming aware of my heartbeat, thinking my heart is beating too fast, I'm freaking out, going into a panic. I could be in my room, same thing. I could be going at anything. It doesn't even matter, but it was a very body sensation for me. So I was very hyper aware of my body function, and anything that sounded a little bit off would create that sense of panic for me, which, as you know, I mean, we have aches and pains and we get sick and things like that. And those things, I all of a sudden was hyper aware of those things, and they would spiral me into this crazy paranoia that I'm about to die or about to have a heart attack or about to do whatever. It was crazy. So I went to a therapist. Actually, at first I went to my school counselor, and she didn't know what I was talking about, because in addition to my panic attacks, I was also struggling with disassociative episodes, where this is probably the scariest thing in the world. Like, this is where I was like considering not continuing on, if you know what I mean, because these dissociative episodes are basically where you literally don't feel like you're in your body, but not in a cool, like, you know, psychedelic way, but like in a really scary way where you're somewhere else, you're watching your life unfold in front of you, you're not in your body, you don't really feel things, and you're in that space of like just observing, and you don't really, like, the emotions are totally detached. Like, what's happening to you is very detached. It's a very scary feeling. It's like you're in limbo, basically. And I was struggling with that for a couple of weeks, and I tried to explain it to my school counselor, and she didn't know what I was talking about. Like, I remember sitting there in her small room in Roosevelt, and not to call out this woman, because I don't even remember. I mean, she might have not. It's a counselor. I was telling her how I'm feeling, and it was so difficult for me to even say how I'm feeling, because I don't know, it was so difficult. I had to Google, like, why am I feeling like this? And the word dissociation has come up. And I tried to tell her, and she was just like, oh, so you're stressed out. I'm like, no, I'm not stressed out. Like, this is bigger than this. Like, I need something. Like, I can't go on like this. And then she started focusing on my like health problems, or my eating issues, and how I was eating and exercising too much. And she just started focusing on those things, like, well, Camille, it sounds like you have an eating disorder. And I'm like, this is not why I'm here. That's not the problem here. So she sent me to a therapist. I couldn't really afford the therapist, so I worked with a student therapist, and I find out that this entire clinic that she sends me to is focused on treating eating disorders, which I was like, this is not why I'm here. So I tried to tell the student therapist, and I tried to tell her like what's going on, and she wasn't that helpful, if I'm being honest, which totally just made me feel a lot crazier. You know, they kept just trying to focus on the food stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm good with that. Like, I don't want to talk about this. So eventually we got to doing some breathing exercises, some meditation, which wasn't super new to me because I had done self-hypnosis for a while already. And I, at the time when I was 21, I had done self-hypnosis to release a lot of weight off my body when I was in high school. So I was familiar with the whole meditation, self-hypnosis thing, but that's the one thing that she really gave me, is being able to take meditation and go through breathing exercises and things like that. So I decided to, close out that program. I didn't finish it because it was not helping me. And I decided to go on a search on my own and trying to figure out what can I specifically do to help myself. So I'm gonna share with you what exactly I did that supported me in being able to manage the panic attacks. But I will say my panic attacks continued. They just became less frequent. And whenever they would happen, obviously that's like the worst feeling in the world. But so like they would just become less and less frequent. There was only one time where they became more frequent, and that's when I lived in New York City for about 10 months. That was in 2016. The energy of New York was just way too intense for me, and I was by myself all the time. So I noticed that feelings of being by myself and not having a community, not having people to like hug me and surround me in a way that I needed was making my anxiety issues worse, which is why I only lasted there 10 months. But that's kind of beside the point, so you understand. What I did is I started doing meditation. So I started meditating pretty much every single day. I also started taking up yoga. So yoga, I really think helped me. I mean, it helped me dramatically, and it didn't work in the very beginning. It only happened, I started feeling the effects of it after I've been doing it for a couple of weeks already. So, you know, I would go to these yoga classes. I think I went to yoga classes maybe 3 times a week. That really supported me in being able to get into my body and breathe through whatever sensations came up and knowing that I'm okay. And just being in this being around these other people that are also doing yoga and like feeling secure and feeling like I'm gonna be fine. That was really helpful for me too. So meditation, yoga, being surrounded by people also really helped me. So one of the biggest things that I actually unfortunately didn't get that much was having people to actually love me and support me and care for me. And that was something that I really needed. So when I was single, it was a little bit difficult. It was really difficult for me to share what I was struggling with my friends because I mostly had party friends who didn't really actually care about my personal life, which I realized I was like, oh my gosh, why am I hanging out with these people? Which is why, you know, decided to change my life as well. But then I started dating somebody, and he was going through something, I was going through something. His best friend had just actually passed away in a tragic accident, so I was there for him in that time of need. And then he was there for me. He didn't even realize he was really helping me, but I was fresh after trying to deal with my anxiety stuff. So he was there for me and, you know, supportive and just taking my mind off of things. So us together basically supported each other in being able to take our mind off of what we're struggling with, but also feeling that sense of just love and support. And, you know, I think it's really important to have human touch. Human touch is so important, and we often don't realize how important it is. And I realized how important human touch is when I moved to New York. I was like, no longer have any human interaction, human touch. Like, I was feeling like I was just going out of control. Like I was at the doctor's office like all the time. I was sick all the time. So, you know, that really helped me. Now, if you are single and you're struggling with anxiety, am I saying that you should go and find a boyfriend or, you know, whatever? I'm not necessarily saying that, but definitely find someone that can give you that physical touch. Even if you're feeling like, oh, I don't know, maybe I have social anxiety. Like I know it's helped me, so, you know, it might help you too. And if you can't find that right now, try to get massages. Another thing that I really started doing at that point is getting more frequent massages. Honestly, I just used Groupon for the most part because I didn't have very much money at the time. So I would find Groupon massage deals for like, you know, an hour-long massage for like $45. And I had money because I did have my photography gig that was paying. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was pretty decent. So I was only comfortable getting these Groupon deals, but that also helped me with getting that touch. And it was just a very touch that just has no agenda, and it's very, you know, just soothing. And I would just get Swedish massages personally because that's what I needed. I needed to relax and just feel my body and, you know, that kind of stuff. So that really helped me. And the other piece that really helped me was being able to actually develop my own personal self and, like, you know, starting to do self-growth. So I started to seek more spirituality, and I actually found this amazing spiritual center back in Chicago. I don't even remember, Bodhi Spiritual Center, it's called. So it's really based on this concept of unity and oneness, and I'm not going to get too much into that, but, you know, religions have never really felt that aligned with me because I don't think we should feel guilty for doing things that we want to do, and just guilt and sin just didn't really vibe with me, although I was raised Catholic. So I found a spiritual center that was all about just love. And what I really needed in my life was having more love come into my life. So that was, I didn't know that in the beginning, but as I started getting this love in my life, I was like, wow, that's what I've been missing. I have been so blocked to this. And of course my anxiety was getting worse because I was completely just saying, no thank you to anything that would make me feel good and would make me, get vulnerable or actually be authentic and stuff. So being able to go through a personal transformation and personal journey has been just super, super important for me. So that helped me just manage it in the forefront. I wasn't taking any medication at that point. Now I want to fast forward because my anxiety did get worse when I moved to New York City. I lived in Manhattan, Upper East Side, and just the concrete jungle. It was really a lot more intense than Chicago for me. And because I didn't know very many people and I am more of an introvert, it was really difficult for me to feel that connection, which is what helped me manage my anxiety basically. So my anxiety skyrocketed at that point. It was really bad. I was at the doctor's office pretty much all the time. And something that really helped me at that point is I started getting into some other things that could help me. So I want to share some of those as well. So one of those things are essential oils. So I got super into essential oils. I'm linking some of my favorite essential oils down below, and I will create another video on that as well. Those have been able to support me in feeling more centered and balanced and just taking my mind off of the crazy bodily sensations and just focusing on like, okay, this is good, I'm feeling good. So that was one thing. Another thing that really helped me was listening to ambient sounds. So something that I actually have a couple of apps that create ambient sounds. So for example, the sound of rain or thunderstorm. I love a really random sound that makes me feel very calm and at ease is the sound of a vacuum cleaner, which is so crazy because apparently when I was a baby, my mom would always vacuum whenever I was sleeping as a baby. So now I love the sound of a vacuum cleaner. So if I ever feel like I need to calm down, I turn on rain, thunderstorm, vacuum cleaner sounds. And I'll share with you guys in another video which apps I use and which apps I love for ambient sounds and just calming sounds. There are also some songs and some music, some instrumentals that I found on Amazon Music that were specifically geared for anxiety and panic attacks. So that really helped me being able to listen to that with my big headphones or Beats headphones. That really helped me because it basically makes me feel like I'm just surrounded in sound in a positive way. So that was really helpful. And another thing that I noticed was really helpful is, again, I wanted to feel like I'm surrounded by just a feeling of warmth, which is why something that totally makes me feel at ease is using a personal heater and having it blow on me. So I used to not have a personal heater, so I would literally just use a hairdryer and just hold it and just like, okay, I'm just gonna feel warm. Apparently I used to do that as a kid too. So now I have a personal heater. I always have a personal heater because this is like one of the things that really allows me to zap my anxiety and makes me feel much better. And another thing is being able to go on walks and just moving the body. I mean, something that I noticed is anytime I'm sitting for really long periods of time and sitting in my apartment, I worked from home and I still work from home a lot. So when I was in New York City, I didn't have a co-working space. I didn't really go into any coffee shops because they're all so tiny. So I mostly work from home, and because I didn't really have very many friends in New York, it was really easy for me to just work from home, never leave my house, and then just have that where for a week, I would never leave my house. So I needed to actually start moving my body intentionally, going for walks, going out into nature as much as possible. So I would have to go into Central Park pretty often. So being able to just take those walks and not have to think about it, like just listen to audiobooks or, like fiction has really helped me, being able to like take myself out of my life and into just a story. That has been really helpful as well. So there's a lot of things that can support you, and I think it's really important for you to find your way of managing anxiety and knowing when it's coming up. And one of those things too can be supplements. So I have taken some supplements to support me with anxiety, like GABA and some others. So I'll link those below because I don't honestly remember all of them right now. But yeah, those have been really helpful too. And something that I've started doing, actually since I moved to San Diego, my anxiety has been at an all-time low. I think last year, 2017, maybe I had 3 or probably probably 4 or 5 panic attacks, which is really low for me. And since the beginning of this year, 2018, I have not had any panic attacks. And now we're into month 4 of the year, which I think is really great. And something that I've actually started doing this year and a little bit of last year is taking CBD oil. So I started doing CBD oil under the tongue, and I have that. You can buy it online because it's just hemp. And recently I started actually vaping CBD oil with a little bit of THC, because apparently CBD absorbs better when it has just a tiny bit of THC. And it's not psychoactive or anything like that, because I don't like feeling out of control out of my body, like as you know, so I can't do drugs or anything like that after I had all the things that have happened to me. So I can't feel out of my body, otherwise I know it will probably trigger a panic attack. So I do anything that doesn't make me feel high or whatever. So CBD, very high CBD with just a tiny bit of THC, has been really great as well in being able to just relax me and soothe my body and ease my anxiety as well. So those are some of the things that I have done to help me manage my anxiety and panic attacks. So I really hope some of these things help you. I really think it's about finding your own protocol and seeing what you can do to support and guide your own healing journey. And I'm really happy that you found this video, because hopefully, you don't feel so alone, because I know I felt super alone, and no, it's not fun to feel that way. So I'm here for you, and I'm really excited that you are taking these steps and being able to curb your anxiety. And if you're an entrepreneur, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I also talk about business and marketing and entrepreneurship lifestyle. So if you are an entrepreneur, these things will be very relevant for you. And if you're not an entrepreneur but know someone who is and would find this video helpful, then go ahead and invite them to watch this video, because I think it's so important that we learn how to manage our life so we can actually progress and grow and become better and better. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.